Hello, so I'm going to do something new today. Rather than reviewing a comic book or a manga, I'm going to be reviewing a TV series. Actually, I'm going to be reviewing one episode of a TV series. So I've been watching Trese. Well, let me rephrase that. I watched the first episode of Trese, and it looked pretty cool. So I decided, you know what? Since there's only a couple of episodes, why not just review every single episode? So I'm gonna try doing that and see how it goes. So right now, all my reviews are gonna be blind reviews. And by that, I mean that I have not watched episode 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 at this point in time. I'm basically going to watch one episode at a time, and then immediately after the episode, I will do a review on it. So we'll see how it goes, any surprises, any twists, any foreshadowing, or anything like that. I am not going to know about until I actually get to that episode and that reveal. So I thought that might be kind of cool. So you guys can kind of go on this journey with me as I discover Trese. So Trese is a Philippine anime-influenced streaming television series based on the Filipino comic series of the same name, according to Wikipedia. I have not read the comic series, but I am interested, so I'm going to see if I can track them down somewhere. Because I love supernatural stuff. I love monster hunters. Like anything that has to deal with the occult, with a group or a single person trying to battle the occult or demons or anything like that, always has my interest. Like I love like John Constantine. But I like that kind of stuff. I love monster hunting. So I watched the first episode and I was pleasantly surprised. It was actually really good. And I say pleasantly surprised because Netflix originals tend to be hit or miss. Mostly miss with me, especially Netflix original anime series. Anime and Netflix do not really go hand in hand, but this one, at least episode 1, was actually pretty good. So let's just get right into this. So first off, we have Alexandra Trese. I'm just gonna get to her real quick. She is our main character. She is a human. She is what they call a Lacan. Basically, she protects the balance between the underworld and our world, like humanity and stuff. So she keeps all the demons and supernatural and stuff in check. Basically, there is this thing called the Pact, and it's like a set of rules or guidelines that the demons have to keep if they want to stay on this earth, or if they want to continue living. And Alexandra basically makes sure that those rules are being followed. And she inherited that role from her father, who I'm assuming maybe inherited it from his father or his mother or something. I don't know at this point in time, but maybe we'll figure it out. First thing I will say is that I won't be showing any clips of this episode just for copyright reasons, but I will be showing like screenshots or screen grabs, but you're not going to see any actual animation or anything like that. You're just going to basically see screenshots. So we have a subway and it breaks down on the tracks, comes to a stop, and all the passengers get out. And all the passengers are going one way, except for these 3 women who decide to go the opposite way. Why? I don't know. I kind of would have liked some kind of explanation. Just something as simple as this is the fastest, this is a shortcut back home or something like that. Because even one of them even asked, like, why aren't we following the rest of the passengers? Which makes so much sense because it's the middle of the night. Tracks are breaking down. You're 3 women. You're probably in a dangerous part of the city, or at least it doesn't look like the most nicest place of the city. And you're going to be walking on the train tracks by yourself. That doesn't seem like a really good idea. It ends up not being a good idea because soon afterwards they see a quote unquote man on the tracks up ahead. And then there's basically flashes, like lights flicker. And every time the lights flicker off and then come back on, another figure shows up, and then another and another. And I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. Like that's a really cool visual of introducing these monsters. But then it gets ruined because then we actually see them all in detail, and we see them like climbing up the side of the subway tracks, the subway bridge. And we see close-ups of them coming closer to the women, and the women scream, and it's obvious that, they're going to get killed. And I didn't like this part. Maybe it's just me. Like, as a writer myself, I would have ended it with the shadowy figures getting closer and closer until they're like almost right in the people's faces, and then like a scream. I would not be revealing these creatures whatsoever. These are the aswang. I would not be showing these aswang in full detail. It ruins the horror. in my opinion. Ruins the mystique. Like, to me, the best horror monsters are the ones that you can't really see. Like, that's why, like, to me, Alien, the first Alien movie, was so freaking good. Is because you hardly ever saw the creature. You just see like little glimpses, little pieces. You don't really see the full figure until like later on, and that's always awesome. Like Jaws, you only see little glimpses of Jaws until the very end. I would have done something like that. Don't really show the aswang until later on. Show as little of your monster as possible. Like, obviously, you're going to get to a point where the story requires us to see more of them, and then that's when you can show them. But unless that is necessary, show as little as you can. So earlier when we saw them, like just shadowy humanoid figures just appearing out of nowhere and getting closer and closer and closer, that's so much creepier than seeing basically these dudes wearing jeans and t-shirts climbing up a building, but they all just happen to be bald-headed with pointy ears and sharp teeth. Like, at that point, you kind of destroyed the mystique and you kind of destroyed the horror. It's just like, all right, whatever. These are just monstrous-looking dudes in jeans and t-shirts and flip-flops. Actually, they're not flip-flops. They're basically like sneakers or loafers. They look like loafers. So yeah, now it's like, oh, monsters and loafers. Okay, whatever. You know? So I would have kept that part out. Plus, it's just easier on your animators because that's less for them to animate. Then after that, we get our intro music. And then after that, we get Alexandra doing a voiceover, basically talking about the city of Manila and how kidnappers and robbers aren't the only things you should be worried about. They're the least of your troubles if you're walking out at night. It's the ones that feast on your soul and your flesh that you really got to be watching out for. And we see shots of like monsters and things like that. So it's a pretty cool intro. And then we cut to a crime scene. And this was kind of weird, where we see the white lady, the woman in white, which is a folklore that has basically gone everywhere. I think every single country, every state, every city has their own. Like, we even have our own in my small little town about the woman in white, who basically it's woman is it's always different. Sometimes she's about to get married, but then the lover runs away, or the lover dies, or whatever. The lover ends up cheating on her, and then she commits suicide. Now she haunts the place, something like that. Anyways, we get her, and she's dead. And you're like, but obviously the woman in white is dead because she's a ghost. Well, the ghost is dead. So we actually have a crime scene involving a dead ghost. And I was like, oh, all right, that's kind of interesting. And then we see her like around basically this like runic circle, and we have people standing by. And I'm just wondering, okay, so does that mean that people are aware of monsters in this series? Is it something that like everyday people know about? If so, then that makes the three women earlier really stupid to go walking off on their own instead of sticking with the group. Because these people, like, they're kind of crowded around and they're watching, but they're not really like shocked or surprised. They all kind of have like blank faces. So is that just an animation thing, or is that like, oh, they're kind of aware of it? We're introduced to Captain Guerrero and Sergeant Tapia, and they're two cops who are aware of Alexandra and what she does, and they don't really seem to be all that shocked about this ghost lady. So I'm guessing the cops are in on it too. So is this like just kind of like everybody is in on this? Like, everybody knows about these monsters and creatures? See, that's the thing I'm kind of wondering about. And I'm also kind of wondering, what do you guys think about stories like that? Do you like, especially if it's set in like, you know, the modern day? I mean, in the like, if it's set like in the past, like medieval times or whatever, that kind of makes sense because, you know, you had stories about vampires and werewolves and monsters and blah blah blah. That was kind of spread around. But in the modern day setting, do you guys prefer stories where the average citizen is aware that there are these creatures out there, or do you like it when it's more like just the main characters are aware of this and they kind of hunt the creatures in secret? I've always kind of been the latter. The trick is finding out a way to keep things secret without people just being stupid. But anyways, this woman in white, it turns out that she was the lover of the mayor, Mayor Sancho, and she committed suicide in the 90s. And Alexandra arrives and she's kind of looking at the ruins. She's like, these are it's kind of a crude ruin, kind of a crude circle. And then eventually the woman in white, like the ghost, wakes up. It comes up and then it just starts disintegrating and breaking off into pieces, and then it dies for good. Alexandra basically takes some of the material that's from the ruin, puts it in a bag, and tells the officers, like, I have friends in low places. I'm going to go try to track down information on where this ruin came from, who set up the ruin. And throughout the episode, we get flashbacks of Alexandra as a child with her mom. And her mom is just kind of like explaining stuff like, death is not the end. And this flashback is like, death's not the end, blah, 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 circle of life, all that kind of jazz. Didn't really care for it. I get the point of the flashbacks, but I don't know. They're the least interesting part of this episode to me. We cut later on to Alexandra walking down the streets, and then she basically does this, not a chant, but she says like a phrase, and this mud golem creature pops up, and she basically tells the mud golem, like, hey, I need to speak with your master. And that's when this little goblin dude from the sewers, his name is Nuno, he pops out. And basically this goblin creature is an informant. Alexandra bribes the goblin creature, Nuno, with a candy bar and basically says, I need to know what's going on. Like, I need to know, basically there's this woman in white, she died. I need to know what's going on. What happened? And Nuno basically explains that the woman in white was promised by her boyfriend that she would become a queen if she helped close this deal that he was making with the Aswang clan. However, the deal kind of fell through when a hit was put on her. So Nuno basically explains more about the woman in white and the deal and stuff. And I'm gonna quote what I remember. But he basically explains that in order to gain a seat at the table, a buy-in sacrifice was necessary. And the woman in white believed that she was a key player, but in reality, she was the bargaining chip. So she was the sacrifice needed to gain the seat at the table. So now Alexandra's asking, like, which clan is it? What was the deal? And Nuno says he can find out based off of the ruins, and basically identifies that the ruin was made from crushed mermaid bones, which is a surefire way to kill a ghost, and that there's only one clan that deals with this, and that's the clan that's run by Ibwa. So Alexandra shows up at a pier where we see several Aswani clan members basically going about their business, and their business is kind of, I guess, it's trafficking body parts. Like, we see parts where, like, we see them weighing eyeballs, we see like human intestines, we see other monstrous kind of looking things. So I wonder if this is like a black market kind of deal with harvesting body parts, not just from humans, but also from other creatures. Or if maybe this is like the demons' food market. Because you got to wonder, like, where do some of these demons get their food? I mean, obviously, a lot of them just go and kill people. But if they want to not break the pact, they have to go about legitimate ways of getting these meals. Is there some kind of demonic supermarket that they all go to? Anyways, Alexandra shows up and she goes to the back room where Ibla's at. Basically demands answers from him. Like, she recites the pact that his clan made with her dad. And, it's like, you made this pact, you got to follow it. But Ibla refuses. He basically says, the pact was with your dad, not with you. So I don't have to do anything that you say. This is my territory, and in my territory, like, I'm the king here. So he sends some men to kind of stop her, but she kicks the crap out of them. And at this point, I'm kind of wondering, because later on, there's a fight scene too. She's human. Alexandra's human. But she is way stronger than a normal human. I'll get to that later. So I'm kind of wondering, is that part of being the Lacan? Or is they just not something that they ever explain? But anyway, she beats them up. Then she grabs a knife and sticks it near Ibwa's throat and basically says, tell them to leave, otherwise I'm going to kill you. So he does. And then she demands answers. But before she gets answers, she basically says, like, you broke the pact. I don't care if it was with my dad. The pact still stands. You got to give me payment. And so she stabs one of his eyes out. I was like, all right, this lady means business. Like, she literally sticks a knife in his eye and rips it out. We don't see that, though. We see that off camera. Later on, we see her in a car with her two sidekicks, Crispin and Basilio, I believe are the names. I don't know what exactly they are. They're not human. And they're driving her around, and she basically asks for a glass of water, and she sticks the eyeball in it, and then she drains a cloth. She drains the water onto a cloth, and then the cloth basically shows the mayor Sancho making a deal with the aswang. So now she knows, okay, the mayor's involved. The mayor, who was also the lover of the lady in white when she was still human before she committed suicide. Before we get to the next scene, we get another flashback with her and her mom, where they're basically, the mom is teaching her how to summon this fire monster, which is going to play later on. And she gets a call from her husband, and all of a sudden she starts hearing weird noises. So she puts a protection spell on her daughter and tells her daughter to run underneath a waterfall. And so her daughter does that. Then we come back to the present, where we see the mayor trying to do things to kind of boost his ratings because there's like an election coming up. And Alexandra shows up and shows the rag to the police officer, to Guerrero, and basically says that the mayor Sancho has a connection with the aswang. So we believe that she basically catches him up to speed. But Guerrero is like, I believe you, but we can't do anything about it. Like, we need evidence. We can't just say the mayor was working with demons. Like, that's, you know, which begs the question, does that mean that humans aren't aware of the aswang? Or is it just because, you know, you obviously you got to have evidence if you're going to accuse someone of something, especially the mayor. So is that why? Or is it like, you know, we can't go after him and say that he's working with demons because no one's going to buy that because people don't believe in demons? That's the thing. This series doesn't really explain at this point in time, with just episode 1. So I'm kind of wondering about that. Anyway, she confronts the mayor and his involvement with the Aswang clan, and he kind of brushes it off. But he kind of makes some movement that makes it known that he's aware that she's on to him. So basically, we cut to another setting. It's a crime scene, and this one is the train station. And the train station is just covered with blood. Everybody is missing, and Guerrero is kind of just revealing the facts of this to Alexandra, and she asks to be left alone, and everybody leaves except for her. And that's when she pulls out her phone and she dials a number, and she summons the fire demon. The fire demon is Santelmo. I can't remember. It's something like that. And she basically asks help, like, I need you to help me figure out what's going on here. Like, I need you to investigate the scene and tell me what you can find. So he does. And he basically explains that the people that died here were burnt to death in their sleep. And their souls are still lingering in the realm of the dead and the living. So their souls are like trapped. And so Alexandra kneels down, pulls out her knife, and she carves something into the floor and sees all the ghosts and the souls, including the 3 women who died earlier that we saw in the intro of this episode. And then this woman comes out, and she is the emissary of Ibu. And Ibu is like death, basically. So she's kind of like the emissary of the Grim Reaper. Alexandra basically asks for information on, you know, what's going on with these souls. Why are they here? What about the 3 women? What's going on? And so the emissary explains that, you know, obviously the 3 women were killed, and I can show you where they died. And the moth flies out of her mouth and basically leads her to this building where Alexandra shows up. She tells her 2 guards to stay behind as she goes inside, and she does a spell to light up this flame so she can look around. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, who needs flashlights when you can summon fire? And while there, she sees like a blood trail. Like, everything is just like messed up. There's blood everywhere. There's blood and gore on dining room tables. Eventually, she sees a bunch of people locked up in cages, and one of them basically, you know, begs her for help. She's like, you know, they took my daughter. They're in the back room. Please save her. And so we cut to a scene in the back, and at first I was like, oh man, is this gonna get I mean, just look at this picture and tell me what it looks like is going to happen. Thankfully, none of that happens. But anyways, yeah, these aswang demons, before we kill her, let's make sure that we claim her soul first, because, you know, souls are a lot better than flesh. But Alexandra shows up, pulls out her knife, and she fights off the creatures and kills them. And then she frees the little girl. And then when she walks out, she sees Zamul. Zamul is the leader of this aswang clan, and he has a bunch of them with him. He basically says, "Hey, like you're trespassing. Leave the girl and get out of here. Otherwise, we'll kill you. Me killing these humans is punishment for what you did to Ibwa for ripping out his eyeball," which we all know is bull, because the kidnappings and the killings of the people happened before she did that. So he's just kind of trying to use an excuse to get across the fact that he's breaking the pact. But she refuses. So he sends a couple of the aswang after her, but she brutally kills them. And then he's like, well, all right, I'll send everybody. So everybody goes and starts charging at her. When her 2 guards show up, and they're wearing these like kind of cool looking masks, and they're just slowly floating down, and they're shooting everybody with their guns, and they're basically just wiping out the aswang. And then we have this weird moment where she tells the guards, cover me. And then she turns to the little girl and says, stay with me. And she grabs the little girl's hand. And basically she charges into the middle of all these aswang and starts slaughtering them while dragging the girl with her. And I'm just like, why are you going to rush into this horde of demons with the little girl when you can just leave the little girl back and have your 2 guards guard her and basically shoot anyone that gets near her? It's like you're literally bringing her into danger. So this didn't make sense. Like, the scene itself was cool because we just see her like rushing through and just slaughtering them as she just keeps moving forward. And it's not like a badly drawn fight scene or anything like that. But just the fact that she's dragging this little girl with her as she's doing this, it's like really unnecessary. Just leave the girl behind and then take out the demons. Have your 2 guards who have guns and who have been slaughtering these demons with their guns, have them guard her. But no, she drags this girl with her into the fight. In fact, we even get this moment where Zamul kind of brushes past Alexandra and rushes right for the little girl. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, you just put her in danger. But Alexandra, being the badass that she is, she slices him right down the middle and basically kills him before he can reach the girl. And there we go. That's the end of the aswang. So then we cut to later, where we see all the people that were in cages are free. The cops are there. They're taking statements. And this is where we find out like everything that's been going on. So basically what's going on is that Mayor Sancho has wanted the apartment building that these people were in, and they refused to sell it because they knew that he was going to build condos in that area. So they were waiting until the price went up so that they can get more money out of this deal. And instead of, you know, paying the people what they wanted, he instead burns down all their buildings, and the people had nowhere to go. So then he invited them into this other building where they can stay until, you know, their homes get fixed and yada yada. And then he started working with the aswang clan. And basically he made a deal with the aswang clan where he's like, you know, you can continue kidnapping and eating people. In fact, you can eat these people here. And we get this really cool scene of just all these aswang eating people at dinner tables, and that's why there's the blood everywhere. In return, like I mean, I will continue burning these buildings down and getting you people, and all you gotta do is you eat them, get rid of them, because then, you know, that basically I get the land that I burned down, and then as for the people whose property I burned, you killed them, so now they're no longer my problem. So that was the entire deal. And then Guerrero basically tells Alexandra, we can't arrest him for his involvement with this clan, which again brings up, does that mean that people don't know about these demons and stuff? I mean, obviously these people would know because they were kidnapped by them, but does the average, everyday, normal citizen not aware of demons? Because how come you can't get the mayor in, you know, his involvement with the clan when you have proof and you have evidence and you have witnesses now? I'm guessing it's because people aren't aware of the demons. So anyways, he says, we can't get the mayor on that, but we can arrest him for arson, human trafficking, and the murder of his lover, the lady in white. And so we get another flashback where we see Alexandra. She gets out of the waterfall. Like her dad arrives, and there's a bunch of dead aswang everywhere. And then turns out her mom was killed too. And yeah, so that's how her mom died. And then we see her go back to her apartment, which is above this nightclub called the Diabolical. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. She's in her room when the emissary arrives and basically says, like, I want to apologize for my master's mistake. Because earlier the master was using like the trains to ferry the dead, which is against the pact. But Alexandra is like, that's fine. Like, I will overlook it if you give me information. And then they gave her information about the stuff earlier at the crime scene. But anyways, she shows up. She's like, my master just wants to apologize for this. Basically, that there's this prophecy, and the prophecy is that the 6 Lacan from the 6th child, or the 6th child from the 6th Lacan, something like that. When they die and they go to the underworld, they will become the queen of the underworld. And this emissary's master wants to make sure that Alexandra and her are in good graces when that happens. Right? Like, you're not fulfilling the prophecy now because you're still alive, but you will when you die. And obviously, I want to be on your side when you die, because if you're going to become the queen of the underworld, I want to make sure I'm on your side. But Alexandra basically denies the prophecy, says, it has nothing to do with me, but me and your master are okay for now. The emissary disappears. Alexandra gets a phone call from Guerrero about a new crime or a new investigation, and that's how we end it. So overall, I liked it. Did have some nitpicks. Animation is actually pretty good for the most part. I mean, obviously, there's like actual anime out there that's better, but for a Netflix original stuff, it's actually not that bad. I was expecting it to kind of be worse, but it's actually, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. The writing is good for the most part. There are just some confusing questions. Like, mostly for me, are people aware that there are demons? Or is it just like a select few that know about it? And then just like other nitpicks, which I've already brought up. Like just the fact that, the girls going away from the group, revealing the monsters way too early, having Alexandra drag the girl into the fight with her when she could have left her behind, just stuff like that. Stuff about not explaining why you can't go after the mayor. I get, okay, we can't go after the mayor earlier because we didn't have the evidence. Like, we knew it was him based off of your investigation, but we didn't have like full concrete evidence to nail him down. But then later on when you did, why couldn't you go after him? Could you just say, like, we can't get him on charges with being involved with the aswang clan because no one but a select few know about it? Obviously, you phrase that in a better way, but something like that. Just some things I would have liked answered. Voice acting, for the most part, was really, really good. No complaints, really, except maybe Alexandra. And I think that's, as someone who hasn't read the comic, I don't know what her personality is like. But here, she's very monotone and very stoic. And so we don't really see, I guess it fits. Like, if she comes across, like I said, very monotone, very stoic, very just lack of emotion. And even when we get like a little hint of emotion, which she shows very little of it, like even just like, surprise or whatever, or when she's being like a little bit smug, like when she's about to rip out the dude's eye, her voice still stays the same. Like it's the same level, same tone constantly. Like even when she's talking to the little girl and like trying to calm her down, like, it's okay, you're safe now, I'll get you to your mom, I'll protect you, everything's okay. The voice is still the same. There's no change in her tone. So I don't know if that's like following the character in the comics and that's how the character talks, like the character is just very monotone-ish, or if that's just maybe the voice actress isn't the right part for this, or maybe she was directed to be that way. Like, I don't want to fully blame her, because I don't know what the deal is, but I kind of wish that there was a little bit of just a little bit like an inflection in her tone. Like if you're gonna be soothing to a child, I want to hear Alexandra using a soothing tone. If she's going to be smug, I want her to use a little bit of like a smug, like cheerfulish tone. But no, like she's basically the same. When she's surprised, She doesn't have like a surprise tone. The tone is always the same. That kind of bothered me a little tiny bit. And but it's not like a deal breaker or anything like that. And again, maybe that's just the way her character is supposed to be. I don't know. Maybe someone who's more knowledgeable about this series, this franchise, can let me know. But other than that, it was a really good episode. Like, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It's I haven't watched much on Netflix, but I am going to watch the hell out of this series. Like, I really enjoyed it that much. Like, I recommend it. Anyone who has Netflix, check it out. At least, like I said, I'm blind watching these. So I haven't watched 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 at the time of this recording. So it could be just complete garbage from here on out. But in regards to at least episode 1 was awesome. And if the rest of the series is any good as episode 1, then I'm in for a hell of a good ride. Let's just hope it stays that way. But yeah, check out Trese on Netflix. So tell me what you guys think, because this is my first time doing a review for a TV series. Do you like it? Like, I've seen other people review shows, and I see 2 different things. I see one where it's just someone kind of just giving the very basics of the episode or whatever, and then their thoughts on it, and it's usually like, 5 to 10 minutes. And then I've seen people go like full on breaking down scene by scene everything that happened, and then kind of giving their thoughts afterwards. And that's kind of what I want to do. I kind of wanted to try out the latter. Are you guys okay with that kind of format? Are you all right with just me showing the screen grabs? Because again, I'm not going to be showing any clips, not even for a few seconds, just because I don't want to risk any kind of copyright. So I'm hoping the screen grabs are okay. But I hope this kind of format is all right, because if you guys like it, I mean, not only am I going to be doing it for the rest of this series, but I might start doing it for other stuff. Basically branching out into anime TV series, anime movies. I was thinking, like, I already have a couple of movies that maybe I want to try, a couple of TV series I want to try, and not just anime, but even live action stuff, other, Western animation, whatever. Basically, just whatever grabs my interest, I might review them. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. I hope this is all right with you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm all up for any kind of criticism you guys want to give me. Just hopefully let it be constructive. Like, anything I can do to make my channel, my videos better for you guys, I want to hear it. So if there's anything you can give me, like if it's anything like that, anything that can be constructive that I can work on, that I can improve, let me know. Things that you like, things that you didn't, that kind of stuff. Any recommendations for stuff that you would like to see me review in the future, let me know. But yeah, take care everybody. Hope you have a good one, and I hope to see you next time. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you did enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.